believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years.
Great, so prosecute them. I don't know what's so complicated about this. Like, if you have the files, you're the DOJ. The Trump administration is in control of the DOJ. If the Biden DOJ was corrupt, fine, they weren't. But the Trump administration, that's their DOJ. Prosecute them. You don't have to release anything. You literally don't have to release anything. And once you prosecute them, the court will then rule in that litigation whether or not it's within the public purpose, considering defamatory possibilities, to release that information. And if that evidence in there is evidence in their prosecution, and it ends up being like legit evidence, then it will be released. But if it's just random name drops with not enough evidence to support a prosecution, then you should not release it. It's called defamation. People will sue. Like, that's why we shouldn't release the Epstein files for no reason.
In this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway, we don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
Now, Ben, that clip has had millions and millions of views this week, understandably, because there's a massive disconnect between what she told me there and what Pam Bondi was saying and what others were saying and what's actually materialized in the last 48 hours. Senator Cruz there very firmly that he wants everything put out and he wants criminal action taken against those who broke the law. What's your view?
Again, those two things have nothing to do with each other. Take the criminal action. You have the files. Your DOJ has access to the files. What is stopping you from taking criminal action if there is enough evidence to indict someone? These people make zero sense. Not everything has to be public. Not everything should be public.
Couldn't agree more. Look, I think there's transparency the American people deserve, but not just the American people, most importantly, the victims. They deserve to not have this be covered up in any capacity or for people to just stop looking. I don't know if there's certain information that has disappeared or wasn't there that they thought was there, but at the end of the day, all that we do have needs to be put out there in a responsible way. You have to protect the victims. That is something that's extremely important. And
I mean, people don't like talking about it. I guess there's some semblance of justice in releasing all of the names, because probably a lot of those people were doing bad stuff. But at the end of the day, if you don't have evidence against those people enough to support a prosecution, again, it's a bad idea to do that. Because you're not only protecting the victims, you're also protecting people from defamation. And that could be, you could be possibly protecting one of the perpetrators. But that's unfortunately how this has to go in these sort of scenarios. This is the procedure. We can't just do stuff whenever we feel like it. Like, when the vibes feel like, oh, let's just release the Epstein files for no reason. Like, that's just a vibes-based analysis, and it's a fake justice. Real justice is getting a prosecution. Fake justice is releasing a bunch of names and saying, oh, well, some of these people were probably pedophiles. It's like, that's not correct. It's immoral. It's not procedural.
so it's got to be done in an orderly way. But there are too many people that have talked about this on the record, saying that there's a lot of stuff out there, to then all of a sudden say, all right, well, maybe we don't have it, maybe it's not there. Whatever the story is, give it to everyone the same way and make sure you protect those victims. But they deserve justice, and I don't think this is going to be the end of the story. I think there's far too many people that are asking the questions that you just mentioned, that the senator mentioned, that I'm mentioning, and this should be nonpartisan. This should be non-political. You have children that apparently were sex trafficked and abused in horrific ways. That has nothing to do with politics. It should come out whether the people that were the perpetrators of this were liberal or conservative or agnostic. It doesn't matter. You need to protect the victims, and we need to make sure things like this never, ever, ever, ever happen again.
Right, Brian Tyler Cohen, I mean, I do think it's a non-partisan issue. Obviously, nothing is these days, but I do think that it is completely baffling to me, just as a journalist, that you have this extraordinary scandal that rages away for many years. The main perpetrator dies in prison and is believed to have taken his own life, but the only person that's actually been made criminally accountable and is now languishing in prison is Ghislaine Maxwell, his kind of madame.
It's like, why does he think that is? Is it because of some kind of deep state like conspiracy? Why do they imprison her? I mean, it's because they had evidence against her. This is very, very simple. They had evidence against her that she was coordinating all of this, and then they could actually prove that she was doing all this bad stuff, and that's why she got like 20 years in prison. But you think does Ghislaine Maxwell not have the special protection from the deep state that everyone else has? Is that what's going on here? Because if someone else there had enough evidence like Ghislaine Maxwell had, wouldn't they have been prosecuted? Like, well, no one asked the question. If you want to prosecute, no one's stopping you. Literally, no one's stopping you.
Figure who's a woman. So none of the other men who are widely believed to have been involved in this, none of them have been made accountable. What's your view of this?
Yeah, I mean, my view is that this is a con job by this administration. All of these people, Kash Patel, Alina Habba, Dan Bongino, Donald Trump, all of them came forward and said that this was a priority for them because they were stringing their supporters along. And then the moment they get into power, here we are in a situation where the whole thing is just closed and we have no further information on this. And yet, look, I think it would be fools to be surprised. I mean, this is a guy, Jeffrey Epstein, who Trump himself palled around with for years. This is a guy who Epstein himself called his closest friend for
his club.
This is just incompetent, and I've never disagreed with Brian Tyler Cohen, but did the Biden DOJ also cover for Trump then? Because they had access to the same information. Did they see, oh, Trump, we have enough evidence to convict him of some seriously bad stuff, but we're just not going to do it. We're just going to cover up for him. Does Brian think that's the case? Because he certainly thinks it's the case with this DOJ. That they're just covering up for Trump. I don't think there's enough evidence to convict Trump, because if there was, he would have already been convicted, like Ghislaine Maxwell was. It's a very, very simple thing. It's not like this evidence is like under a rock and nobody's looked at it. The intelligence authorities have looked at it. The DOJ has looked at it. Right? Courts have looked at it.
This is a guy who Jeffrey Epstein said was his closest friend for 10 years. This is a guy who Donald Trump appointed as the Secretary of Labor. Alex Acosta, who handed him a sweetheart deal, a non-prosecution agreement where he was out of prison 6 out of 7 days a week. So, look.
Yes, the situation with Acosta is probably the weirdest part of the Epstein story. Like, I don't think that the minute missing from the camera is weird. I don't think that the guards missing their shift is weird. There's a lot of stuff I don't think is weird. Because the prison facility he was at basically was a disaster. They shut it down like 2 years later, temporarily, because it was just a non-functional disaster, and the Bureau of Prisons reported on that. But the deal that Acosta gave Epstein was absurd. And I have to think there might have been someone influencing him on the other end to do that, who wanted to protect Epstein. It could have been because he was an intelligence person. It could have not been. This is the only really part of the Epstein story that I think you have a license to be conspiratorial on, because it just doesn't add up to me why he got off so easy, given the amount of evidence that they had. Nothing. I mean, he totally killed himself. All the medical examiners say that, but that's the only part that I really question.
Trump can say what he wants on the campaign trail in the lead up when he needs to get everybody's votes and pander to the base, but at the end of the day, he's the guy in charge, and suddenly the about face from everybody in his administration, the buck falls to one person. It's not Alina Habba or Carolyn Levitt or Dan Bongino or Kash Patel. It's Trump himself.
Right. I mean, Natalie, the interesting thing in terms of the timeline here is that when Elon Musk fell out pretty spectacularly and suddenly with Donald Trump, one of the things he posted on his X platform was, bombshell. The biggest bombshell is that Trump's in the Epstein files, right?
But didn't we already know that? Like in the civil litigation for Ghislaine Maxwell, we knew he was on the flight 7 times. The courts made that information public because it was relevant to the case. They chose to make that part public. That's the whole process in which these files should become public, is through the courts. But we already kind of knew that Trump was in with Epstein in some scenarios, but there's not enough evidence to convict him of doing anything bad, and I just don't believe Trump was involved in that. I don't know. I kind of trust like Tucker Carlson. Like, I don't think Donald Trump's really into that stuff. I think he was just friends with Jeffrey Epstein because it's just like 2 rich guys like taking planes together. Doesn't matter. He was connected to Epstein in some way, and probably not in a extremely malicious way. This is the only time I'll ever defend Donald Trump, ever. And it's kind of why we shouldn't just release Epstein files for no reason, because then people will take any name in there and say, convicted pedophile, right, when that's not the case. And then you can get a lawsuit.
only a few weeks ago. And since then, there seems to have been a concerted effort for this story to just go away. Now, these two things may be completely unconnected. There may be nothing more to it other than Trump obviously was seen around Epstein. They clearly were very friendly for a while. I think he used his plane several times. I don't think that's in dispute. But there does seem to be a weird timeline here of Elon Musk saying that publicly and everything getting shut down a few weeks later. Am I reading too much into this?